So moving to the outside of my cabinet, what are some things I would like to change here? Well, I've already done an improvement by adding a window to the door. That was really important for me. Um, Something that really should change is this area out front. I have steps, and they come down to dirt. And so what happens is I bring a lot of dirt into the house with me, especially if it's raining. It's kind of wet out here today. So I really should do some kind of patio or build a deck right up to the floor level here, and find some way to remove the stairs temporarily or build around it so that I can have a deck here instead of having it be so low to the ground. So that's something I would like to change. For security reasons, a lot of people who have RVs don't depend on these latches. They're not very strong. They work, but security is something that you can improve. So I'll probably do that. And if I'm going to do that, I would do something to improve these too. There's a lock here. You can't open it very easily, so you have to use a key to open this little lock. And then once it's open, you can get inside. And there's some storage there. This storage is underneath the bed. It passes through. I've got some workout equipment and a mat and some other sports equipment in there. Nothing real fancy or expensive. It's a good idea to not have a lot of expensive things when you live in an RV because they're not super strong. So those storage areas are something I'd like to improve. Mostly just reorganization. But the other thing is, I really should have a shed. I don't have a shed. But that's a few $1,000s usually to build a modest shed. And I have to eat food, so that's going to have to wait for another time. Out front, I've got two 20-pound LPG fuel tanks here. It's kind of small. Works good in the summertime because really the only thing I'm using gas for is cooking. It probably lasts all summer, but in the wintertime, I can go through 20 pounds in a week if it's cold. And that's a really expensive way to heat the house. It's 20 pounds at a time because that's the most expensive way to buy LP. But then again, upgrading to a large tank is hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I'm probably not going to do it anytime soon. All right, so outside, that's the neighbor's building, not mine, so don't worry about it. This tree needs to be trimmed a little bit. Some of these branches are not in a good spot, for my cabin. The cabin's in the wrong place. I call it the cabin, but the RV, it needs to be moved over. Look how ugly this looks, where I have, my sewage plumbing and my fresh water supply and electricity all going long distance to get to the RV. But it's hard to move an RV with a pickup truck, so I'll get around to it later. I have to prepare the area. So now underneath the RV, I've got some things that I would like to add to my project list. A couple really important ones. The slide out is held together with the mechanical parts of the RV, but it's not really supposed to be suspended for long periods of time because it'll cause stress on these on the mechanical parts. So I'm supposed to put some braces underneath that. So that's a couple $100 I need to spend that I don't have. The tires should be covered because ultraviolet ruins them. That's going to end up costing me $600 to replace those tires if I don't do a good job of protecting them. But it's not free to protect them either, so I guess too bad, for now. And the whole RV right now is resting on the tires and a couple braces. Basically, when I'm in the RV, the whole thing kind of, bumps up and down a little bit. So I need to put some stronger braces underneath the steel I-beams when I get around to it. All right, so not going to happen anytime real soon. Over here, I did a good job of adding a filter. But I really should do some better plumbing. Right now, all the stress of this plumbing is resting on here. It's probably going to break off someday, and that's going to be an emergency. Possibly cause flooding, and I don't know. But, when am I going to get around to it, right? I'll fix that one day. Over the RV, you can see some branches. That's not good. I definitely need to, hire somebody, probably going to cost $1,000, $2,000 to do some tree work. I'll try doing it myself. Hopefully I don't get hurt. You know, I'm pretty crafty, but you know, there's always a risk there. So that's, you know, the wheels, I need to cover them. But of course I need to move the RV over. So those are some of the things I need to do on the outside. I'd really like to make a patio out here. I've got some ugly looking fireplace right now using cinder blocks, which is not the right way to do it because cinder blocks break apart. But hey, at least I can come out here and cook food sometimes and enjoy the outdoors. So those are some things I want to change. Out here, when the people moved their stuff out of the way, they had to move this huge rock, probably weighs a few tons. It's looking kind of ugly. I'd like to move it again in some kind of way that looks like a rock garden, but yeah, that's really low priority. All right. So also just looking at my property in general, this is a lot of ugly looking dirt out here. I would like to do something to make my yard look nice. Kind of look like, you know, uncared for a little bit, but it sure is better than the mess that was here earlier. There was a lot of stuff here. Oh, looking at the front, there's another rock. I like this rock, but I need to do a little work with it because I don't know why there's some bolts and a brick stuck to the front of it, but we should make that look pretty. And driveway. I have a driveway over there. There's a part of me that thinks I'd like to do a loop driveway at some point. But then I would have to put a covert pipe in here. You know, you're looking at, you know, another $5,000 project. More important than the driveway is a fence. So I have a dog. Even if I don't have a dog, you know, because she's getting a little bit expensive, I'll probably have to get rid of her, to be honest. Can't afford to keep an animal. I need to eat food. But, you know, anyway, I'd like to be able to fence off the property. So not the whole thing, just the backyard with the least expensive fencing I can do all by myself without hiring somebody. You know, I'm probably looking at, you know, $4,000 or $5,000 to do a few hundred feet of fence. Split rail fence with 14 gauge wire on the inside to keep the dog from getting out would be pretty good. So those are some things I'd like to do. I got these pallets for free because I like wood. I thought that I could probably dismantle these pallets and find that about half of that wood would be useful so I can build a little picnic table. That's my goal there, to build a low-cost picnic table. Meanwhile, my kayak is sitting outside in the sun. Ultraviolet is going to ruin it. So I got to find some way to cover that, put it on a mount, put a lock on it. Somebody's going to steal it. But, you know, what can I do, right? Everything takes time. Everything takes money. And we'll see how it goes. In the back, I have this fire pit. It's close to my neighbor's yard. It looks like this fire pit has been used basically to burn trash. So I'd like to clean up the trash that's in it. That's not really an appropriate way to do things. And I'll probably dismantle this fire pit and, you know, not use cinder blocks. It's kind of redneck and not good quality. So I got some wood that I got for free. That's my yard. So yeah, I've got ideas about how to improve it. For sure, one day I'd like to actually build here instead of having an RV. It'd be nice to have a house, you know, stick-built house. Around here, they don't call it a cabin. They call it a cottage. That's the word for house at the lake. And I'm not sure where I'd put it, but I have a little bit more than a quarter of an acre here. So I've got a place, you know, I would have to, the septic is past the pickup truck there. So I'd have to have a repair area for septic. In other words, a designated area where I could add a second septic if the first one fails. That's just a building requirement. And hopefully I would be able to do that. Like hopefully the ground will perk test. I think it will. It seems pretty porous. So I think the ground will probably perk test just fine. And I would probably be able to get approval to build. But you know, that's a whole nother story. So one of the interesting things about building is that with the RV and this property, the best I could do is get a 10-year loan. So I've borrowed less than $100,000, but you know, so I'm paying a little bit, somewhere around $1,100 a month to live here. And if I were to ironically spend more money, get a 30-year loan, you know, I could make my monthly expenses a lot lower and have a better property that's more of an investment. This is not an investment. The RV is already, you know, depreciated, right? So what I owe for the RV is greater than what it's worth if I were to try to sell it. So that's fine. The same would be true if I was renting, right? You don't ever get an investment on your rental properties. So I feel pretty good about it. In 10 years, it'll be paid for. It'll still be worth some money, hopefully. You know, maybe at that point in time or sometime before that, I can figure out a way to get a loan to build and actually spend less per month to have a nice house instead of an RV.